All right, I'm with my friends Benjamin and Patricia today, and very grateful to have them. Benjamin, why don't you introduce who y'all are, where you're going, what Lord's doing in your life, and then Patricia, I'll ask you to introduce the kiddos, all right?
All right. My name is Benjamin Broyles, my wife Patricia. We are church planting missionaries to the Balkans, specifically the country of Albania.
Well, we have 3 kids, 3 girls. They're awesome. So we have Audrey, 5 years old, Hadassah, 3 years old, and Scarlett, almost 9 months old. So.
All right, so y'all met in Brazil, correct? Your parents are missionaries there?
Yes, that's
so
correct.
Were you born there?
I was born there on their first term, grew up there, and that's where we met.
Yep. All right. Your sibling, how many siblings do you have?
I have 7 siblings, so 8 of us total. There's
okay.
Total of 8
Was
kids.
everybody born in Brazil?
No, the first 4 were born in the States, and the last 4 were born in Brazil. My parents had 2 families, an American family and a Brazilian family.
Awesome. Okay. Patricia, did you grow up speaking English?
Not at all. So in Brazil, we just speak Portuguese. But in high school, they give you lessons, like English lessons, but no.
Okay, so take the time. When did y'all? You kind of grew up together. You mentioned. So when did you start being interested in the other?
Well, she started earlier than I did, but we started really talking more interested in each other about 17 years old, 16, 17, and but then we started dating at 19 years old and got married at 21.
Yep.
All right, excellent. So she started a little bit earlier. So how much is earlier? Go ahead. I want to hear from you. How much earlier? You might say
2 years
one thing.
early.
Let's hear from you. All right?
I don't know. I think it was 14 when I started liking Benjamin.
Okay.
We were in the same youth group, so.
Marvelous.
He was the tallest.
He was the tallest. That's awesome. Okay, so now God has brought you guys together. You moved to the United States. And now God is preparing you to head over to the Balkans. And what a wonderful thing. Now, let's talk about some of that journey, because I think everybody who will be listening here, at least our missionary friends, they're going to go through transitions as well. And so, Patricia, you've already made a transition from Portuguese to English, from South America to North America. Now you're getting ready to make a whole nother one.
Yep.
And Benjamin, you helped your wife, your family from Portuguese to English, from South America to North America. So there's already been some cultural adaptation. There's going to be a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. And this is going to be another. So what are some of the things, let's start over with you. What were some of the things that right when you got married, you said, obviously, he already speaks Portuguese, but he's also speaking English, and obviously it's a different culture. And so there were some different things, maybe about your in-laws or about your new family. And obviously there was when you arrived over the United States. So tell us from the very beginning, when y'all met, what were some of the things that you were thinking, this is not how we do it in Brazil?
Well, let me think. Maybe the way that people invite you for their house. I remember growing up with Benjamin's family. So my family, we were just like a few minutes from each other. I remember going to their house, and as a kid, a Brazilian kid, we go to their houses and we just walk in. But America's, I don't know, they were more kind of, I want my privacy. So we had to laugh or to knock, whatever, and ask if we could come in. But they came to our house, and they just knew, like, we just walk in and we just get in here. So they were very welcome. That way it was a different thing that was like, whoa, very different. And then when we got married, we worked alongside his parents to start a new church plant just to get us some experience. And for me, I would say the biggest shock was Sunday lunch, because we always gather together to have the lunch on Sunday, and they decided they just gonna speak in English with me. And I was like, this is not nice. I'm not feeling good here. I can be part of the conversation. I understand a little bit here, a little bit there, but I can't speak up. I can't give my opinion. So that was a shock, but for sure helped me a lot. I might train my ears and stuff. So.
Okay. What were some of the things that you helped her as she was adapting to maybe marriage, to new family, to a new life?
Well, I would say she helped me a lot as well to understand. A lot of times you're on the mission field and you think you know everything about the country that you're in. And but I did grow up as in an American home. We were in Brazil, grew up very Brazilian, but there's still a lot of stuff that, family-wise or that you don't really get because it's everyone's American around you. So she helped me adapt and understand, learn a few things like that, and see things in another way, which is very helpful as well, which we used in our family also. But yeah, one of the things we tried to do is we tried to even try to adapt, use both cultures in our family, in our house, even in our food. My wife, she's ready to try anything, and I will eat anything. So it works out well. And so we tried both ways, use both foods in our house, and that helped also to adapt.
So experimenting with a little bit of both culture. Okay,
for sure.
Now, I've read several different books. They're called third culture kids. So missionary kids many times are called third culture kids because they're not 100% from, homeland, which would be maybe America, not 100% from where they're at. Their parents are serving on the mission field, but you have fourth culture kids. So you're getting ready to go to Albania, and obviously you want the girls to learn Albanian and learn the culture in Albania, but they're still going to have a grandma and grandpa that is American. And they're going to have grandma and grandpa that is Brazilian.
Correct, yes.
And so where are we fitting in with all of So what are some of the things that you did now and some of the things that you're going to do when you get in Albania to repeat, to help your kiddos to adapt to the new culture that God has placed them in?
That's a good question. I'll let you.
Okay, so one thing that we are doing now to prepare our kids to Albania is like put Albania in front of their kids. Like we get Albanian food, we try to prepare Albanian food. We also try to show places in Albania. We try to show how people dress, how people do stuff. So even like in those days, we used a lot of TV and computers. So when it's their time to watch something, sometimes I'm just putting a video about Albania, like how to cook Albanian food.
Hey, that's a great idea.
And I just let my kids see, or how Albania looks like. So, and my kids are so excited to get there. So this is one thing that we are trying to do, the transition. So it's not going to be like a shock, like, oh, this is not American. Yeah. We are used to America. It's comfortable here. And in Albania, it's going to be different. Yeah. So we are trying to show that they ride a lot of bicycles. It's not all cars, everybody. Yeah. It's not everybody that has a car. So we're showing that to them and trying to unattach it. I don't know if it's a word or not, but like showing them how different it is. And one thing that I do a lot is put my kids in the kitchen with me. And they like, so we eat Albanian food in our house. We eat American food. We eat Brazilian food, Hispanic food. So
a little bit of everything. All right, go ahead.
A little bit of everything, So if, one of the things that we did when we moved back here to the States was we tried to speak only Portuguese in the house because naturally we use English whenever we're out.
Sure.
So we speak Portuguese. Her parents only speak Portuguese. And so we want our kids to be able to talk to their grandparents in Brazil. And with my parents, they speak English, but with her parents, they speak Portuguese. Yeah. And just on the way here, we were talking, FaceTiming them and talking, and Audrey was speaking in Portuguese to her grandma, to her vovó. And so they, that's really important. But when we get to Albania, we're going to have to add that third language. And obviously, as kids, they'll pick it up very quickly with their friends. They're going to have friends over there. We want to take them to the park, get them around other kids and let them and learn that culture, learn that, and I'm sure they'll pick it up very, very quickly. And but we want to keep all three and use all three.
So I'm hearing a whole lot of, I guess there's different. This is great for our friends that would be listening that are getting ready to go to a new country or living in a new country. You don't have to ignore where you come from, but you do include the new culture.
For sure.
And that's a wonderful thing. You also, I think you said, you let them see it. So their eye, right? And it's going to affect their heart. They see it, but they're also tasting it, right? Some of the new food, we don't just ignore one's better than the other. We just we're trying a little bit of both. And you love it. And by the things that you said, they're excited about it. And I think that becomes from you both. And God's put that in your heart, and you're transferring that over to the kiddos. And I think that's a wonderful thing. All right, so you're doing now. Let me ask you this. Now, how about in ministry? You worked under your dad for a while. Obviously, growing up, you were in church, but you worked under your dad for a while when you got married, and then y'all started working in another church. Is that right?
Yes, that's
so
correct.
You were in a ministry context in a whole different. Outside of your parents in a different ministry context in Brazil. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. After working about a year and a half alongside them, helping start a new church, which was a great experience. It was wonderful. The Lord allowed the opportunity for us to go to another state, 7.5, 8 hours away, something like that,
Wow.
and take the pastorate of a church there for a year. And so we worked there. We were completely, cut off from everyone. We were a long ways away, and on our own. And that was a great experience as well, to be able to pastor that church and work with that church. Yeah. It was very different. There was all that context, all the adaptation to that area of Brazil, which is very different from what we were used to.
Sure, same country, but different areas, different culture there.
Completely different. And and that was great. That was a great experience. And at the beginning, hard, but then by the end of the year, very, very much accustomed to it. And you get used to pretty much anything. Okay,
so you guys have been through multiple already steps of adaptation. You're getting ready to go through another. God has already allowed you to get the support. You're getting ready to go over there. So what are some things that you've done as a couple that have helped you stay strong as a couple as you're going through, so I'm sure there's sometimes that, Bachi, that you're probably saying like, this is just makes no sense. It's crazy, but you don't lose your mind, all right, come back. And I'm sure there's other times that you are, both of you bring each other back together. What are some things that you do? What are some things that you're going to need to continue doing when you get over to Albania so that y'all don't lose your craziness?
For me, in my personal life, I need to pray with my husband. This is one thing that I need to do, and I see how God works in our relationship when we pray together. Mm-hmm. So since we started dating, actually before we started dating, we had a day in the week that we stop for an hour and we sat down together and we pray together. We started dating, we did the same thing, and then we got married, and we brought that thing to our marriage life, and I love that. So we prayed a lot together, and we still pray a lot together. After the day's over, the kids in bed, like 8 o'clock at night, I want my kids in bed so I can spend at least an hour just with Benjamin. Good. Sometimes we read books together. Sometimes we watch something together. Sure. Or sometimes we just talk. Like last night we were just talking. Okay. We were just like setting up stuff together. And so this is one thing that I'll say that.
Yep, that is definitely a super important part of it. Our relationship with God, obviously, but also together, our relationship with God. And it's very, very important. Yeah. And one of the things we also always try to do is we try to take one day of the week, and we try to separate that for our family. And the girls already know Family Day. And that was very important for when we moved to another region of Brazil, when I pastored that church. And ever since then, we've tried to implement that into our every week. We take one day and do something with the family. Very important for strengthening our marriage, strengthening our family, and you always have. It might be the hardest week, but you're like, I can get to Family Day, and it really does. It does allow for the time of rest, a time of recuperating and getting ready for the next week as well. So,
Amen. So you're a multicultural couple in a multicultural context, ministerially, and you've learned to kind of shelter together. To weather out the storms that life has. And I think for every couple that would be listening, life is a pressure cooker, and it puts us under pressure, and like we're all going to blow if we don't find how to, keep our wit. Yeah. And you guys have done that together. That's through the evenings together. That's through your prayer together. I think that's wonderful. Let me switch back over to the kids real quick. We've got just a couple minutes. There's some things that you've done that you're going to do. In other words, how do they stay in contact with grandma and grandpa? Your parents are American living in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Your parents are Brazilian. So either way, they're not here. Mm-hmm. So it's been a challenge. And I think sometimes the biggest worry of a parent is, a missionary parent is, man, my kids are going to miss out on. Well, your kids don't even have the option of spending holidays with. So what are some of the things that you've done, maybe technologically, or, things that they can keep on staying in contact with their their grandparents, and you're going to do the same thing in Albania.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of attitude as well. You can look at it as missing out on stuff, or you can look at it as having more experiences,
Or
opportunities.
Yeah, that's great.
I had the opportunity. Obviously, growing up in Brazil, both my sets of grandparents were here in the States. All my cousins were here, but in Brazil, I had everyone at church was uncle and aunt. I had tons of uncles and aunts. And they were like family to me.
Yeah.
That's so I can look at it in a bad attitude, or I can look at it in a good attitude. Man, I've got cousins and uncles and aunts wherever I go, and family. When we were in Rio, all the grandparents were back in São Paulo, and they were far away. But there was a couple there that really became Audrey's. We had one daughter at that time. Became Audrey's grandpa and grandma. I mean, they lived close to us. They would come. They would help out. They would take care of her, and it became vovó from Rio. And the same thing here in the States when we're here and the grandparents are down there. You have church family, you have people that you get to that you become close to, and just the opportunities are so much greiter than the missing out. I believe it's a great opportunity as well.
That's good.
If you don't keep talking to your kids, oh, you're missing that. See, grandpa and grandma's doing that. If you don't show that to them, they're not gonna miss it.
Yeah, and nowadays technology-wise, you can always do something. Like you can always call, you can always talk. There's always ways to stay in contact, and they know who their grandpa and grandma are. They know who their vovó and vovó and their aunts and uncles. And so nowadays, even more than before, they can still keep that contact and enjoy the
So there's a healthy balance there of let's keep them in contact with via technology, but not like let's not go overboard. Can't be with them. This is horrible, And I think you guys have done a very good job with that, and praise the Lord for that. And so, all right, let's wrap up this time together. Pachi, any last words that you would have maybe for a mom and dad missionary family that are out there serving the Lord? Any last words on raising your kids in a different culture?
Well, it is possible, even though when you think it's not, it is. When I came to the States, was a shock, it was, but I put myself out there and I took my kids with me. So
good.
You can do it. So just trust in the Lord.
Great. Amen. That's good. How about you?
For sure. Growing up in another culture, and then as we came here to the States and seeing my wife adapt to a new culture, she did an amazing job, and she did a great job. She pushed herself, and she knew when to step back, and she knew when to push herself through, hard situations. And so you can do it. And it's not going to be easy. There's difficult times. There's times when you want to pull your hair out, and but those are the moments that define you. You keep on going. On going. Don't stop. Lord has a reason for those things, and He wants those hard times to build you. He doesn't want to break you. He wants to build you.
The Lord will give you joy in all that.
Yes, for sure.
Hey, so biblically, the 1 Thessalonians 5:24, faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. God has called you to Himself, and wherever geographically God puts you, He's going to make it possible.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think you guys have been a great example, and I appreciate you taking the time to come here and to share with our friends that'll be watching, that'll be listening, because it's, as you said, but it is definitely possible. With God's help, it's possible. Yes. And so that doesn't mean that you just leave, just throw it out there and we'll see how it goes. You put in the elbow grease per se, and you make sure that that's there. You guys have done a great job, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you.